In 486 AD, the Frankish king Clovis I marched west, then fought and defeated an army of the Gallo-Roman rump state of Soissons, led by the former Western Roman Magister Militum of Gaul Syagrius. With the subsequent absorption of his domain into the Frankish realm, the de facto Western Roman Empire was effectively eradicated. However, Syagrius survived the battle and fled to the court of Alaric II in the Visigothic Kingdom. Clovis demanded that Syagrius be handed over or hostilities would commence between the two. Alaric was not eager to fight the Franks, and so gave in to Clovis's demand. Syagrius was brought to Clovis and then immediately executed. After this, Clovis began pillaging Roman territory, but despite his position, some Roman cities refused to yield to the Franks, such as Verdun and Paris. Verdun surrendered after a brief siege, but Paris stubbornly resisted for a few years, perhaps as many as 5. After taking it, Clovis made Paris his capital. By 491, Clovis had stabilized the former Roman territory and was eager to move against Alaric. He began his campaign by laying siege to Nantes, the most northern city under Visigothic rule. Nantes resisted for 60 days. It is said that the Frankish commander Kilo was so impressed with the resistance that he abandoned Germanic paganism and converted to their religion, Chalcedonian Christianity. As further incursions into Visigothic territory continued, Alaric seemingly refused to give Clovis battle, thus leaving Clovis to besiege Poitiers, Saintes, and Bordeaux. During the latter, an important Visigothic noble, Duke Syagrius of Bordeaux, was captured. During his return from Bordeaux, Clovis might have also captured Tours. In 496, the Alemanni in the east challenged Clovis, and he thus marched east and defeated them in the Battle of Tolbiac, killing their king Gibald and absorbing their domain. Despite winning this engagement, Frankish casualties were very high, and there may have been some internal turmoil as a result. Seeing an opportunity, Alaric quickly retook Bordeaux, Saintes, Poitiers, and possibly Tours, therefore rendering the war into a stalemate. Clovis's brother-in-law and brother of King Gundobad of the Burgundians, Godegisel, seduced Clovis with the promise of annual tribute and territorial cessions to plot with him against Gundobad, and in the year 500 the Franks entered the kingdom. Gundobad requested aid from his brother, and together the brothers marched against the invaders. The 3 armies met near Dijon. Soon Gundobad found himself fighting both the Franks and the forces of his brother, and thus fled to the city of Avignon. Victorious, Godegisel returned to Vienne and assumed the kingship of the kingdom, but Clovis was not satisfied and marched to besiege Avignon. However, after a lengthy siege, a Roman magistrate of the city and general, Aridius, convinced Clovis that the city should not be taken. Therefore, Clovis departed from the kingdom after parleying with Gundobad, who agreed to pay an annual tribute. In 501, discontented, Gundobad allied himself with Alaric II, and thus stopped paying the annual tribute to Clovis, and with Visigothic help, besieged his brother in Vienne. When the city fell, Gundobad executed Godegisel and many of his Burgundian supporters, and thus re-established himself as the king of the Burgundians. For their efforts, Gundobad sent the Frankish captives to the Visigoths and gifted Avignon to Alaric II, who proceeded to meet with Clovis. The 2 kings met near the village of Amboise, where Alaric agreed to release the captives, while Clovis returned all Visigothic territory he still held. After allying with the Armonici around 503 and gaining the approval of the magnates of his realm, Clovis began the liberation of Aquitaine in 507. In order to make it clear to the populace that this was a liberation and not an invasion, Clovis forbade his men from pillaging the land. While marching from Nantes to Poitiers, Clovis's march was interrupted by Alaric II, who was apparently aware of Clovis's support among the Chalcedonians of his subjects and decided to defeat the Franks before they could join forces, and thus both hosts met and engaged each other at Vouillé, near the city of Poitiers.
My proud warriors, today we have the chance to die for our people, for the glory of our home, for the honor of our ancestors. Take up your weapons and rejoice in this battle! Are we sure we are not related to them? They are about as hairy as our lot. But they stand in our way, and so they give us no choice. We must wipe them out. sure they die.
Despite having greater numbers and superior equipment, the Visigothic host was routed after all of the sub-commanders were killed, including King Alaric II himself, allegedly by Clovis in single combat. The battle was a decisive victory for the Franks. The Eastern Roman Emperor Anastasius I made Clovis an honorary consul and patrician for this victory. The battle forced the Visigoths to retreat to Septimania in southern Gaul, which they continued to hold, while the success at Vouillé allowed the Franks to control the southwestern region of Gaul and capture Toulouse. Alaric's illegitimate son Gesalic tried to organize a counterattack at Narbonne, but he was deposed and ultimately killed when Narbonne was taken by Burgundian allies of the Franks. Clovis eventually drove the Goths out of Angoulême and sent his son, Theodoric I, to lead an independent campaign southwards. The Frankish prince advanced from Clermont to Rodez, finally arriving in Albi. Meanwhile, Gundobad, assisted by the Franks, besieged Arles. However, after a lengthy siege, the Visigothic Kingdom intervened and inflicted a heavy defeat on the Burgundians, forcing them to retreat. Despite this, Clovis was able to recapture Bordeaux before the end of 507 and spent the winter there. In the following year, Clovis was able to seize the enemy capital of Toulouse and the treasury within it. The Visigothic court had relocated to Narbonne, hence Clovis aspired to take it as well. However, the city was protected by mountainous terrain, so Clovis was forced to besiege Carcassonne, located between Toulouse and Narbonne. The siege, however, ended in failure, where the Ostrogothic relief force was successful in driving the Franks off. Clovis then turned back and took Angoulême, which he initially ignored. In order to nullify the chances of Ostrogoths recapturing any cities, Clovis installed extensive garrisons within them. After uniting all of the Frankish tribes into one and expanding the Frankish domain from a small rump state along the southern Rhine into one of the largest kingdoms in Western Europe after 30 years of campaigning, King Clovis I passed away in Paris on November 25, 511 AD. His legacy would be that as the first official founder of the Kingdom of France, and through the conversion of his realm to Christianity, an ally to the papacy in Rome.